If you have like, the kind of sensitivities, you'd be like, why? Please, no. But you would not doubt, would you, that we would all be affected, right? It would come to our senses. I believe the same happens with meditation. We just may not be able to sense it with our senses in the way you can sense a smell, right? But the fact that each one of us has a practice, it becomes an aroma in the air in which we have our practice that actually magnifies and multiplies it. So namaste. That's the power of being in these seats and in this sacred sanctuary today. So let's get going. Are you ready? We are on an adventure. It's called Adventures in Spirituality. It's 7 weeks with this book. You don't have to love this book to still come every Sunday, but if you can make a commitment for the next 7 weeks, I can promise you, if you apply mindfulness and the practice, you will have a great gift that unfolds during the 7 weeks. Because just like our meditation practice, we can benefit each other, so too do we benefit when we work on something together. And this year, we're doing Ordinary Mysticism by Mirabai Starr. She is a well-known author. She has done a lot of research and a lot of spiritual texts. She's written and done projects for other individuals, putting together a lot of really, really, really cool stuff. If you dive into her and her history, she's amazing. I actually didn't know of her until recently. And the reason we're doing this book this year is because there are a lot of things that can distract us these days from ordinary mysticism, aren't there? We could all use a little bit of, like a little kick in the pants, right? To just go, you know what? There have always been things going on in the world, outside and within us, always. There have always been things. There's been death, there's been war, there's been darkness, right? Always. In the history of humanity, that's been happening. Whenever I get really depressed, I go to one of my Buddhist friends. He runs the Temple Buddhist Center in downtown Kansas City. And I bring my very positive unity and all my hope and all my intentions. And I go, but what about this? And he reminds me that it's not about trying to strong arm the world around us to shift, right? The master teacher taught this, right? The master teacher still walked the walk in the midst of destruction, in the midst of all that was going on at the time, right? Trying to call forth integrity, trying to call forth love. And so this practice, this next 7 weeks, is here to remind us that we can have peace, we can have mindfulness, we can step into our power, we can create grace among us and in our world, even in the midst of chaos, even in the midst of whatever individual things are going on in our own lives. And I think Mirabai Starr does a great job of making that invitation easy for us. It's ordinary mysticism. So here's the first question for today. What is a mystic? Just think about your own definition of a mystic. You can text it to someone. If you're in one of our chats, go ahead and write it in. What is a mystic? Think about it in your heart. You can whisper it to the person sitting next to you. Someone can shout it out if you want. But what is a mystic to you? Someone who knows. What is a mystic? Someone who feels the power of God and lifts their spirit to great understanding. For the next 7 weeks, I invite us to think about that question. What is a mystic? Where are they? Are there any today? Where do we find them? What is that about? What is our definition of mystic? And how do I become one? How do I live a more mystical life? How do I step into ordinary mysticism? If you know anything about the history of religion, right? If you studied religion and scripture at all, you know that there is this history of power grabbing, yeah? A history of power grabbing. And that power grabbing, part of that has been to say, I, me, and my ideas, my interpretation, my experience, my understanding of spirit, of God, of source, mine is the one. I got it. I got the answer. I got the knowing. I've got the practice. I've got it. And now that I've got it, you need to come to me to get some. You need to step on the path that I stepped on. You need to put on the shoes that I walked with. You need to listen to what I hear. You need to get it from me. We make mysticism very high and holy, very complicated, very hard to attain when we take it outside of the true spiritual teachings of truth. And the moment we do that, we have lost the power. We have played into the system and the dynamic of the power grab. And we do it inadvertently, just thinking, well, how could I be enough to be an ordinary mystic? Anyone know an ordinary mystic? Raise your hand if you know one. And it could be you know one or you are one. There are plenty of examples in life where we will be told we are not enough. I just moved this weekend, all my stuff. And it was like painful to be in my mind because all I could do the whole time is criticize myself about how much stuff I have. It's all in my garage right now. And really, like, I'm a camper. It could all stay there for 20 years and I'd be fine. I'd be fine with the things that are just in the house, right? I was fine living interestingly all summer with like a backpack. Just as happy as having all that stuff. But we run these rackets in our minds about ourselves, whatever it is, and you fill in the blank for you. We run the racket of why I'm not good enough, I'm not spiritual enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not wise enough, I don't know about this, I can't practice that. There's no way this could be relevant to me. The teachings of unity and the teachings of the master teacher, Jesus the Christ, were that you are the light, that we are created in the image and the likeness of God, not the other way around. In the book, The Contemplation of Christ by Ernest Wilson, it says this, and I want to ground this new book by Mirabai Starr with some of our old unity teachings. It says this, the heart of Christ, one element of the message of Jesus Christ that sets it apart from all other messages of great teachers throughout the ages is its heart element. Others had told men what they must do to please God. Jesus not only told men what they should do, but he proved by his own life that his words expressed practical ideas. Others hinted obscurely through vague abstractions at the nature of the spiritual life and heaven. Jesus used simple illustrations that were as familiar to them as to him. Ordinary mysticism. Other teachers had drawn apart from mankind, humankind, and had devoted their lives to dwelling upon perfection. Mysticism. A sage, a saint. You have to step apart. You have to be so holy, so perfect, so unattainable. That was not the path of the master teacher. Jesus dwelt among men. He taught and served them and loved them into goodness, and I would say into godness. Others emphasized their own holiness to mankind. Jesus sought to impress men with the saving power of God within themselves. He included himself with them and them with him. I am the light of the world, and ye are the light of the world. He said, he that believe on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater the works than these shall he do. We seem to forget that line. We seem to forget that line that makes us really take a look and say, well, if that's true, we're either all massive failures Anyone want to stand on a pedestal and be like, yeah, I'm rocking it better than JC? Better than Buddha? Better than St. Teresa? Better than fill in the blank? There's something else here then, right? There's something else here. Greater works we shall do. So we must be seeing from a different lens, right? This is not about the saint and the sage that we think about when we think about perfection. It's about ordinary life, ordinary mysticism. Can I wake up in the midst of having bad news? Can I wake up and feel the divine in the midst of whatever is going on, in the midst of sometimes the monotony of life, in the midst of whatever it is, fill in the blank in your life, in the ways that you think, in the midst of having whatever it is, addictions or hoarding, or I don't know that I'm a hoarder, but I'm something. I'm something. I'm going to saturate myself in minimalism videos for the next year. Jesus loved humanity, not just the well, the rich, the good, but all humanity. Love. His love for humanity was the power that enabled him to heal. Their response to his love was the healing. Love is the power that heals humanity today. He goes on to say, the doctrine of Jesus Christ is a heart doctrine. So today I invite us to think about diving in, going deeper into the mess, into the aspects of ourselves that it's like, here's a chick with a broken halo, right? Here's to the messiness of life, and even in the messiness of life, finding the sacred and allowing an awakening, allowing what's there, the goodness, the godness that's flowing in and through each moment to reach us so that we can recognize it, we can have recognition, because it's happening all of the time. It is sitting right next to you wherever you are. You are walking right through it every day, but we don't always see it. So I loved this introduction by Mirabai Starr, and I love the way she writes. You may or you may not, but I invite you to think about the next 7 weeks, and if you decide to get this book and go along with us on this journey, even if you come and you don't have the book, you'll be fine. But if you do, I invite you to think about the things that trigger you, that scare you, that make you want to run away, that make you want to go, maybe I won't come this Sunday, or maybe I won't go to my group. Those are the times to double down. Those are the times to stick with it and to claim and to declare, I will get something from this that will awaken me to the next step in my path, to the next step on my journey. Mirabai Starr says this: welcome to the temple of your regular life, the garden of your days, the harbor where you catch your breath, the theater of your relationship. This is the terrain where you wake up and transform, the sometimes chaotic, frequently fraught, unexpectedly beautiful domain of the everyday. She says, your life is holy ground, and she encourages us to have a direct experience with the sacred, to notice those places where we're calling for an intermediary, where we're thinking somehow we didn't get the full allotment of godness in our lives, that somehow there's lack or limitation, or somehow there's some place we need to go to get more God, that there's someone we need to be that we are not already in order to access the divinity that was born in the master teacher, that's born in all of humanity, that light, that flame, that fire. She invites us to recognize that we belong. A mystic, she says, is someone who skips over the intermediary, ordained clergy, prescribed prayers, rigid belief systems, and goes straight to God. No doubt there are times in each of our lives we wouldn't be here if we didn't buck the system a little bit. You don't find unity and you don't find this type of spiritual practice because you went with the grain, because you just did what you inherited. You find this because you said there's something more, and I'm going to listen directly and do my best. And I may fall, it may be messy, I may be wrong, but I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen to what I'm given, and I'm going to trust, and I'm going to walk moment by moment through the messiness to find the divine. She says, mysticism is not about concepts, it's about communion with ultimate reality. She goes on to say, ultimate reality blooms at the heart of regular life. It shines through the cracks of our daily struggles and sings from the core of our deepest desires. A mystic knows beyond ideas, feels deeper than emotions, is fundamentally changed by what is unchanging. Mysticism is a way of seeing beyond the turmoil, the rights and wrongs, the good guys and villains, to the radiant heart of things. Now, in order to walk that path, we have to be willing to let go. We have to be willing to release our constant obsession with saying everything is wrong, even when things are wrong. Because it's not about that. It's about being in the presence. If I'm so distracted by tearing at everything, saying it's so wrong, I'm missing the mark in knowing that I am in the now moment. And I have access to all of it. And I will bring this to the discord. I will bring this to the lack. I will bring this to the chaos. I will bring this to the disorder. A mystic, she says, gazes through eyes of love. And love reveals itself as the only true thing. She goes on to say, when you decide, and decide is the word, when you decide to walk the path of the mystic. Now, she's not saying that you just were born with magic. But when you decide, when you begin to understand it and you decide, you make the choice. When we decide to walk the path of the mystic, the mundane shows up as miraculous. The boring becomes fascinating, and your own shortcomings turn out to be your greatest gifts. What? Decide? How can we decide? Can you? Can I? Can we decide? I don't have to heal everything to wake up. I can have a spiritual path even in the midst of the ordinary. Eric Butterworth used to talk about miracles. Because a miracle, I mean, wow, a miracle, right? Who doesn't want a miracle? I mean, that is like up on a pedestal, a miracle. And his core unity teaching was this: a miracle is the orderly working of the law. Knowing who and what we are, knowing our source, and a miracle is simply alignment and an orderly outworking of the law. Talk about bringing it down to ordinary. She talks about her path in spiritual growth and her God understanding. And she says, my God is sometimes goddess. She is often subversive, knocking over the furniture in the parlors of the privileged. My God rarely conforms to a fixed gender, embodying all the most life-giving qualities of both the feminine and the masculine, such as tenderness and mystery, discipline and confidence. My God both transcends anything I could conceive of and lives inside of everything I know and do and am. This week, she gives us an invitation to set our intention. She asks us to fearlessly look upon our life as holy and whole. To fearlessly look upon our life as holy and whole. Can we do that? Look upon our lives, all of it, and keep looking. If we don't see the holy and whole, in fact, a lot of the New Thought early healers, right? Because New Thought started with a lot of physical healings. And when you really look into the writings and the teachings, it wasn't some magic that they healed with. The magic was that they saw things not as unwhole in the first place. They saw it as whole in the first place. That I'm not seeing you as injured and then praying for your healing. I'm seeing you and I see straight into you so deeply that there is no concept of any lack or limitation or any illness or anything like that, because I know who and whose you are. That's the invitation she's giving us in our lives. Like, whoa, can I look at that? I've been practicing that in my own life. The things that I think that my mind thinks I need to know, like Stan said, the mystic is the one who knows. I've been doing the practice of what if I can get rid of thinking that Erin needs to know? And just be on the ride. Just be on the ride and trust in each moment. I guess this now moment, this exact concoction of circumstances and interestingness and messiness and amazingness, but this one, I guess this is it. So I will walk into it. I will stand in it and know its wholeness and its holiness. So this week, she invites us into setting that intention, to being about intention. She says, living as a mystic means orienting the whole of yourself toward the sacred. We have other options. Anyone want to take them? There are a lot of other options. We've all been down those roads, right? We have a lot of other options. What happens when people are on their deathbed? They often let go of all those other options and they go straight to the holy. Straight to the holy, like every instant is holy, right? Every divine appointment is holy. The very breath is holy. The very taste of like ice cream, if you're allowed to get it, is holy. Whatever it is, it's like just tear-jerking, holy, holy, holy. Because you get it. You get it what a miracle life is. So can we take on that invitation and say, forget this other stuff. Like, we're not going to get it right all the time, right? It's going to be small little moments. I think Deepak Chopra says that about waking up and about, I don't know what he calls, enlightenment. He always calls it enlightenment. You know, it's known by many names, needing no name at all. But he says the enlightenment and the awakening, it's not that it's like a constant everything. It's like you wake up faster and faster, you know? More frequently you go, wait. Just like the kids with the crumpled up paper in our words, like using mindfulness with our words and not just, we're not going to get it all at once, and that's okay. But can I wake up faster and faster to recognize, even this, even in the midst of this, what a divine appointment. How holy. So we set an intention this week. We cultivate what she says is a mystical gaze, starting right here in the messiness of our lives, she says. Make a pact with ourselves to show up for reality as it is. Reality rewards us then by revealing its hidden holiness, its ordinary wonder, its fruitful shadows, and its radiant wounds. She asks us to dare to believe that when firestorm ravages the landscape of your life, you are standing on holy ground. You could insert your world. I want to close with this. This is what it means to be a mystic. To show up for what is, to be present to all that is, and to take refuge in the boundless intimacy of exactly what is. That's the portal. We try to pull ourselves out and away to get there. But the grand overall design, the divine appointment of this moment, is that this moment was divinely and perfectly orchestrated for this moment of awakening. She goes on to say, the love of your heart yearns for flows from the hidden spring that lies directly under your feet precisely on your most ravaged patch of earth. The historic saints, mystic poets, and peacemakers we admire were a bunch of renegades. They operated within the framework of their religious tradition, yet they broke the rules and opened the way for others to have their own experience of the sacred states they described. Generally, the community recognizes its sages before institutions do. So here's the invitation. It's to become holy troublemakers, to get off the bandwagon of it's all wrong, and to recognize that this moment was divine for us and designed for us. Namaste.